The air shimmered with residual heat from the crash, curling above twisted metal and cracked panels like ghost fingers reaching for a sky that wasn't interested. Smoke crawled from the ruins of the downed scout vessel, black ribbons unraveling against the pale burn of two moons overhead. At the center of it all stood a man with his hands in his pockets and a crooked grin on his lips, blinking casually at the 6-foot alien warrior, aiming a humming blade directly at his throat. "Do I get a last request?" Marcus asked, shifting his weight like this was a casual conversation and not the literal pointy end of a death sentence. The alien woman stared at him, not blinking. Her ears, long, angular, elegant in the same way cliffs are elegant before you fall off them, twitched once. Her grip on the blade didn't waver. She was silent, assessing, and something about her posture said she'd killed things before. Lots of things. Probably before breakfast. Her armor was a matte gray that changed tone with every step she'd taken through the wreckage, and her face was too calm for anyone with a murder knife that close to a neck vein. "You've already used your last request," she said flatly. "You requested not to be incinerated." "Well, I didn't actually say that. I just ran in the opposite direction of the explosion. That's universal body language for, I'd rather not be turned into barbecue." Her expression didn't change. He tilted his head. "You've got a great poker face. Ever consider high-stakes cards instead of, executions?" The blade pressed a fraction closer. A faint sizzle tickled his skin. He sniffed. "Is that cinnamon? Your sword smells like cinnamon. That's a really weird thing for a death weapon to smell like. You assassinate people and then leave them hungry?" She said nothing, but her ears twitched again, and Marcus had the strangest sense she was trying not to react. "I'm Marcus," he offered. "Marcus Wynn, freelancer, sometime engineer, collector of bad ideas. You?" A pause, then, "Veathar." "Vea," he repeated. "Cool name. Kinda sounds like something you whisper before unleashing an ancient curse." Still nothing. "This would be the part where you ask me what I'm doing here," he added, waving vaguely at the broken landscape of scorched rocks and crumpled alloy. "But I'm guessing the whole strolling through a restricted quadrant during a skirmish thing kinda answers itself." Vea didn't lower the blade, but her eyes narrowed slightly. They were a molten shade of copper, burning faintly in the dusky light. He wondered briefly if they glowed in the dark. "That would be unfair." She finally spoke. "You should not be alive." He nodded. "Yeah, that's a popular opinion today. I think the exploding sky cruiser agrees with you." "I should kill you." "You've had like a full 2 minutes to do that. Something tells me you're not as sure about it as you want to be." She stepped closer. The blade's edge hummed louder. "You are not afraid." "Oh, I am. I'm just really good at multitasking. Right now I'm terrified and also wondering if your species invented eyeliner, because yours is on point." Something flickered in her expression. Not quite a smile. Definitely not a snarl. A third thing. Unnamed. Behind them something sparked in the remains of the ship. A hiss of gas. A flicker of dying power. Marcus flinched, and the blade moved with him, but didn't cut. She was precise. He admired that, in a gallows humor kind of way. "What were you doing on this vessel?" she asked. "Fixing it. Sort of. Trying to reroute an energy core with a broken spanner and half a sandwich. The sandwich was less helpful than I'd hoped." Her head tilted a degree. "Why?" "Because someone was paying me. And because curiosity is a disease I haven't been able to cure with coffee or duct tape." She considered this. "You are not military." "Nope. I'm allergic to marching and people shouting at me in unison." "Then why are you here in a war zone?" "Because someone decided the best place to test experimental propulsion was right over your people's territory." He paused, which, looking back, might have been a bit, "Oops." She stared at him. "You are flippant." "I've been told worse." She withdrew the blade an inch, just an inch, enough to let him breathe easier, but not enough to make him think he could run. Not that he was planning to. Not yet. "Give me one reason I shouldn't end this now," she said quietly. He met her eyes and, for once, didn't smile. "Because you already hesitated, and I think that bothers you more than you want to admit." Silence stretched between them like a wire. Then he added, "Also, if you kill me now, you'll never know where I hid the data core." Her ears twitched sharply. He grinned. "Ah, got your attention." Vea stepped back, blade still humming, but no longer poised to strike. Her gaze didn't leave his. "You are very lucky." "Depends on your definition of lucky. I'm sweaty, slightly concussed, and I think I inhaled a microbe that wants to date my lungs." She blinked slowly. He sighed. "That was a joke." "I know." Another beat. Then she gestured with her blade toward the ridge. "You will come with me." "Oh, good, a field trip. Do I get a souvenir?" "If you survive." He followed, brushing dust from his jacket and muttering, "They never say that part on the brochures." They walked in silence for a while, boots crunching over cracked ground, shadows stretching long in the waning light. Marcus eyed her from the corner of his vision. She moved like someone born to war, but there was a stiffness to her now, something not quite as steady as before. "Hey," he said eventually, "you ever think maybe this whole conquer and kill vibe your people have is just a phase? Like interstellar adolescence?" She didn't answer. "You didn't kill me. That says something." "I may still." "Sure. But you didn't. Yet. And now you've got me wondering if that's the start of a very weird friendship or the middle of a slow-motion execution." Vea's voice was low. "You talk too much. You stab too little." That earned him a glance. Not warm exactly, but not icy either. Measured. As the two figures disappeared beyond the ridge, a distant drone buzzed to life in the ruins behind them. Sensors blinked red. A signal was sent. Someone, somewhere, had noticed the deviation in the warrior's mission path. Marcus, meanwhile, was still talking. "And I'm just saying, if your people ever want to workshop names for your blades, the Cinnamon Doom is right there." The salt plains stretched like the bones of a forgotten god, flat and blinding and utterly indifferent. The heat danced in wavering sheets over the cracked terrain, and the horizon refused to move no matter how far they walked. Marcus had been quiet for almost 7 full minutes, an impressive personal record, but it broke when he tripped over a petrified something and muttered, "Pretty sure my kneecap just made first contact." Vea didn't turn around. He picked himself up, dusted off his trousers, and jogged a few steps to catch up. "Do all your missions involve this much walking? I'm starting to feel like I joined a silent meditation cult that forgot to include water breaks." Still, she said nothing. "I mean, you could carry me, not forever, just, through the parts where my legs want to resign." Her voice when it came was dry. "Your legs are not under duress. Your lungs, however, are loud." "See? That was almost a joke. We're making progress." She adjusted the strap across her shoulder. The curved hilt of her blade bounced against her side with each step. Marcus watched her walk, noting the imperceptible limp she was trying very hard not to have. Her right leg favored slightly, probably from the crash. He also noted the way her eyes flicked to every shadow, every dip in the terrain, every spark of movement in the air. Programmed vigilance, the kind that didn't sleep even when she did. "You're injured," he said. "Observation is not intelligence." "Well, neither is walking half dead through a war zone with a guy who makes bad puns and smells like engine coolant." She glanced at him, just briefly. "Was that another joke?" he asked. "No," she said. "That was a warning." He smiled, wiping sweat from his brow. "I'll take it as flirtation." They crested a low ridge, revealing the remains of what had once been a drop capsule, a sleek, semi-buried spear of metal, now twisted from impact. Vea approached it without hesitation, pressing her palm against a panel. The hull shimmered and split open with a hiss of released pressure, revealing a cache of supplies in a long, flat container that glowed softly with contained energy. Marcus peered over her shoulder. "What's in the glowing suitcase? Snacks? A really dramatic flashlight?" She ignored him, withdrawing a vial of liquid and injecting it into her side without flinching. The device sealed with a small hiss, and she exhaled, the tension in her shoulders loosening just enough for him to notice. "Ah, space juice," he said. "So much more efficient than aspirin." She secured the container, slung it across her back, and turned to him. "You're carrying the relay module." "The what now?" She tossed him a rectangular device roughly the size of a shoebox, which he caught with a grunt. "Careful," she said. "It's pressurized. If you drop it, we'll both disintegrate." Marcus froze. "Seriously?" "No." "Oh, thank God. Wait, are you lying?" "Yes." He blinked. "Okay, not helping." They resumed walking. The salt plains began to crack and peel, giving way to patches of obsidian-like stone, the kind that hummed faintly if you stood still long enough. The relics of some long-dead impact event, maybe. Or maybe just the planet's way of saying, "Don't get comfortable." After an hour, Marcus finally asked what had been burning at the edge of his thoughts. "Why didn't you kill me?" Vea didn't break stride. "I didn't need to." "That's a very non-answer." "I am under no obligation to answer." "Fair, but we're kind of past the stranger danger stage, don't you think?" She was silent for a while, then, "You smiled." "When I was going to kill you." He shrugged. "Didn't want to die scowling. My mother always said, 'You never know when your face might freeze that way.'" "That was not fear. It was, something else. I figured if I was going to go out, I might as well confuse the hell out of my killer, keep you guessing." "Is that your strategy for survival? Chaos?" "Sometimes. Sometimes I use baked goods. Depends on the species." She stopped suddenly. Her hand shot out, pressing against his chest to halt him. In the distance, a flicker of movement disturbed the hot air, a shimmer that didn't belong. She squinted into it, fingers brushing the hilt of her blade. Marcus lowered his voice. "Let me guess, not local wildlife. Drones? Surface scouts? From my command." He frowned. "Shouldn't they be coming to pick you up? They think I am compromised. Because of me. Because I deviated from protocol. Because I hesitated. Well, maybe if your protocol wasn't stab first, ask never, we wouldn't be in this mess." She looked at him, unreadable. "Stay here." He opened his mouth, closed it, then said, "You realize I'm the least stealthy thing on this planet, right? I once got caught sneaking into a library." But she was already gone, disappearing into a shimmer of heat and armor, her steps silent. Marcus sighed, crouched behind a jagged rock, and pulled out a small device from his pocket, a makeshift scanner he'd rigged from broken ship parts and caffeine desperation. He flicked it on. Within minutes, the scanner pinged. Vea was back, blood on her knuckles, 2 inactive drones slung over her shoulder. Marcus stood. "So, did you try diplomacy?" "Diplomacy failed." He stared at the wrecked drones. "So did they." She dropped them at his feet. "We keep moving. They won't be the last." They resumed their path, now walking faster. The suns dipped lower, casting twin shadows that seemed to follow just a little too closely. The tension returned, coiling tight in the air, but Marcus refused to let it have the final word. "You know," he said, "if we get out of this alive, I think we should go into business together." She didn't respond. "I'm serious. You do the stabbing, I do the talking. We'd be unstoppable. Maybe a podcast. Plasma and sass." Still silence. He nodded. "Okay, I'll workshop it." A faint smile ghosted across her face, so quick he almost missed it. Behind them, far beyond the ridge, a signal pulsed in the wreckage of the ship. A red light blinked 3 times, then stayed on. Marcus had seen some truly questionable structures in his time. Cargo stations held together with duct tape and optimism, asteroid bars with gravity so inconsistent you could gain muscle mass just by drinking. But this particular bunker took the prize. Half buried in the dark crust of the basin, it looked like a rock had given up trying to be anything but ugly. Wires trailed from the top like abandoned party streamers, and the access panel had the gall to blink at them as if it was considering whether to even bother unlocking. "This the place?" Marcus asked, shifting the relay module on his back. "Because I have to say, it's not exactly screaming, 'safe house' to me. More like unsupervised tetanus adventure." Vea knelt at the panel, hands moving with practiced ease. "It's off-grid. That's the point." "Sure, but have you considered hiding in something less murdery? Like a bakery? Or a planet with breathable air and a beach?" The door opened with a hydraulic sigh, and Vea stepped inside without comment. Marcus followed, muttering about sand and vacation packages. The interior was cramped and dim, lit only by strips of blue plasma light running along the floor and ceiling. Dust floated in the stale air, occasionally disturbed by unseen vents trying valiantly to keep things breathable. "So what is this place?" he asked. "Old recon outpost, decommissioned after the war with the Pernaxi." Marcus squinted at a wall-mounted interface. "You mean the war where both sides accidentally signed peace treaties with different factions and spent 3 months fighting over a translation error?" "Yes," he grinned. "I love that one. Classic intergalactic misunderstanding. Reminds me of my last date." She turned to him slowly. "You're comparing diplomatic catastrophe to dating? Listen, both involve cryptic signals, potential explosions, and trying not to die by the end. It's basically the same thing." Vea rolled her eyes, subtly, but enough for him to declare it a victory. She moved to a terminal, fingers dancing across the keys as the screen flickered to life. Marcus wandered the perimeter, poking at crates, flipping open supply lids, and discovering a container of something that might have once been food, but now looked like dried moss wearing regret. He sat on a bench chewing on a protein bar that tasted like betrayal. "So, while you do your secret alien spy stuff, what am I supposed to do? Inventory the expired jerky?" "You're not supposed to be here," she said, eyes locked on the screen. "Technically true, but that's been the case since I was born." She didn't laugh, but her shoulders moved ever so slightly. He decided it counted. Vea pulled up a map of the sector, a red marker blinking steadily in the southeast quadrant. "There," she said, "transmission relay. If we get there and upload the data core, command might stand down." Marcus leaned over her shoulder. "And by might, you mean absolutely won't, but it'll be fun trying?" She hesitated. "It's our best chance." "Well then," he patted the bench, "let's give best chance a fighting shot." Before she could reply, the lights flickered. Marcus looked up. "Was that normal?" "No." She moved instantly, blade out, scanning the room. "Stay behind me." "Gladly," he said, slipping the protein bar back into its wrapper like it might betray them. The door behind them hissed open, and in stepped something that should not have fit through the doorway. A security droid, maybe, once upon a time. Now half its plating was scorched, and its left leg dragged a clawed gouge behind it. Its voice box crackled. "Unauthorized access. Terminate. Terminate." Marcus raised a hand. "Hi there. Just a quick note. Technically, I'm always unauthorized." The droid raised its weapon arm. Vea moved faster than physics had any right to allow. In one smooth motion, she ducked beneath the initial shot, pivoted, and slammed her blade into the droid's torso. Sparks exploded, but it kept moving. Marcus ducked behind a crate and began pulling wires from the floor panel. "Just buying time with mild electrocution," he muttered. "No pressure." The droid swiveled toward him. Vea shouted, "Don't let it lock on." "Great tip, General. Got anything more specific? Like a flamethrower? Or an off switch labeled, 'Please stop murdering'?" The droid fired again. A blast scorched the crate above Marcus's head. He ripped the last wire from the floor and jammed it into the exposed wall socket, praying to every minor space deity he didn't believe in. There was a pop, then a flash. The droid convulsed once, hard, then fell, the light in its optical core flickering out with a disappointed whine. Marcus peeked out. "Did I just win a boss fight with an electrical short and blind panic?" Vea sheathed her blade, stepping over the now smoking remains. "Improvised success is still success." He nodded. "Remind me to put that on my resume. Under skills, I'll add, almost died, but didn't." They spent the next few minutes checking the systems. Vea moved with efficient speed, scanning for additional threats, while Marcus helped by periodically asking questions she mostly ignored. Finally, the terminal beeped, indicating a system reset. Vea backed away. "We move at sunrise," she said. "I need rest. You should too." Marcus flopped onto the bench. "Great. I'll just drift off to sleep with the comforting memory of nearly being vaporized." Vea turned toward a corner alcove where a cot had been folded into the wall. She paused. "Why do you joke so much?" He considered. "Because if I don't laugh, I might scream. And if I scream, you'll probably stab me again." She didn't argue. Instead, she lay down on the cot, one hand resting on her blade's hilt. Marcus stared at the ceiling. "You think they'll come after us?" More drones, maybe a drop team? Yes. And you think we'll make it? Silence. Then, I think you'll keep talking until something kills you. He smiled in the dark. Probably. But hey, at least I'll die interesting. A faint chuckle, dry and almost reluctant, echoed across the room before sleep claimed them both. The sunrise on Galactic 9 was a lie. It wasn't the warm, hopeful glow of Earth's dawns, but more like someone behind the sky switched on an ultraviolet floodlight and muttered, "Good enough." The terrain outside the bunker shimmered under a thin mist, the kind of fog that wasn't quite natural and smelled vaguely like melted coins. Marcus squinted up at the sky as they stepped outside. "Do you think the sun here hates us personally, or is it just socially awkward?" Vea tapped a sensor on her gauntlet and scanned the path ahead. "The radiation levels are within tolerable limits." "Tolerable is such a flexible word," Marcus muttered, "like edible or emotionally stable." They moved quickly, weaving through the jagged outcroppings and the cracked mineral plates that made the landscape look like someone had dropped a mirror and never cleaned it up. Vea led with unwavering precision, checking her readings every 100 paces. Marcus followed, slightly out of breath and profoundly regretting every pastry he'd ever eaten. "You know," he huffed, adjusting the strap on his pack, "for someone trained in infiltration and blade combat, you walk like a military parade." Vea didn't break stride. "If I walked like you, I'd be dead. I walk like someone preserving energy for emergencies. You walk like someone who's never had an emergency." He grinned. "You wound me." "Not yet." The relay station shimmered into view atop a rise. It was less of a station and more of a glorified pylon, embedded into the rock and sprouting a dish array that looked like it had been salvaged from a forgotten sci-fi convention. Several blinking lights confirmed it was still operational. Unfortunately, the two sleek scout crafts parked nearby suggested they were not alone. Marcus froze. "Okay, let's play a game. It's called Are Those Friendly?" Spoiler, they never are. Vea crouched behind a ridge and peered through a monocular. "Mercenaries, Cyrix models. Look at the armor. Repurposed exosuits, light pulse rifles, short-range comm arrays. Hired muscle, not military." Marcus peeked over the ridge and immediately ducked back down. "I saw one of them pick their nose through their visor. Not sure if that makes them less threatening or more." "We go around, west flank. There's cover. Or," Marcus said slowly, "we create a distraction. One that doesn't involve me being shot, ideally." Vea turned to him. "You have a plan?" "Loosely. You ever heard of a plasma compression capsule?" Her eyes narrowed. "They're illegal. Which is why it's fortunate I found one on a transport I was inspecting. That's called stealing. It's called aggressively redistributing resources." He dug into his pack and produced a capsule the size of a grapefruit, humming softly with unstable energy. Vea blinked at it. "That could take out the whole ridge." "Exactly why we throw it far away and run the other direction." She considered him. "It's not the worst plan you've had." "Don't sound so encouraging. I might get used to it." Marcus twisted the ignition ring and lobbed the capsule across the plane with the flair of a man who once lost a bet and had to MC a wedding on zero gravity. The capsule landed with a dull thud, rolled once, then began glowing ominously. "Time to go," he hissed, grabbing Vea's arm. They sprinted around the ridge, ducking behind outcroppings as the mercenaries turned toward the hum. One of them approached it cautiously, gun raised. Marcus whispered, "Any second now." The capsule released a high-pitched screech, and then a concussive pulse exploded outward in a blinding flash of blue-white light. The ground shook. The dish wobbled. A distant scream echoed, part confusion, part singed eyebrows. Marcus grinned. "That felt good." 3 hostiles disabled. Vea confirmed, checking her readouts. 2 more regrouping. "Let's move." They darted from cover to cover, making their way to the base of the relay. Vea tapped into the panel and began uploading the data core. Marcus kept watch, peeking through the cracks in the old alloy wall. "So when this is all over, what happens to me? You're a civilian who interfered with a classified operation. I prefer consultant with excellent timing. I might recommend amnesty if we survive. That's the nicest threat I've ever received. The console beeped. Upload complete. Now we leave, Vea said. Marcus hesitated. That easy? No. The ridge behind them erupted in gunfire. Plasma bolts whizzed past, scorching the ground. Marcus ducked. You jinxed us! That was definitely a jinx moment. Vea drew her blade and deflected a bolt midair. Down the ridge, there's a canyon. Move! They ran. Marcus nearly tripped twice, cursing his boots and gravity and every bad decision that led to this. They hit the canyon mouth, and Vea stopped suddenly, pressing a hand to her ear. Transmission intercepted. There's another squad incoming. Marcus gasped. How big a squad? Big. Define big. Like uncomfortable birthday party big? Or entire wedding on fire big? She looked at him. You're really not good at fear, are you? I'm great at fear. I just process it loudly. They moved deeper into the canyon, the path narrowing, walls climbing on both sides. Vea examined the stone, then pressed a hidden panel. A section of the wall shimmered and vanished, revealing a tunnel barely wide enough for them. Marcus stared. Okay, that's cool. They slipped inside as footsteps thundered above them. In the safety of the tunnel, Marcus exhaled. So what now? We keep running? Or are you going to tell me this ends with a hot bath and emotional closure? Vea kept moving. We rendezvous at Site Echo. It's deep enough that their scanners can't track us. Then we wait for command. Marcus followed. I can't wait to see what the interior design's like. Let me guess, more rocks? A silence stretched between them, but it wasn't the cold, tactical silence of survival anymore. It was something looser, familiar. You know, Marcus said, you're pretty good company for someone who once tried to stab me. You're tolerable for someone who talks too much. He grinned. Progress. Their footsteps echoed through the tunnel as the light from the surface faded behind them. They emerged from the tunnel into a cavern that looked like a cathedral built by rocks that never quite finished deciding if they were stalagmites or artistic statements. Light hummed from bioluminescent veins in the walls, casting soft blues and greens across Vea's face as she scanned the chamber. The silence was thick, but not heavy, like the planet was holding its breath and had gotten distracted halfway through. Marcus stumbled in behind her, blinking. If this is the afterlife, I'd like to speak to management. I ordered clouds and maybe a harp. Vea didn't smile, but her tone softened. This is Site Echo. Echo, huh? He clapped his hands and listened to the sound bounce back. Oh yeah, creepy and accurate. Nice branding. They made their way to the central terminal, a floating disk of holographic interfaces nested in a ring of ancient tech and alien inscriptions. Vea activated it with a gesture, and the display flared to life, pulsing data streams flickering around them like a choir of digital ghosts. Marcus leaned in, eyes darting between scrolling readouts. So this is it? The evidence? Proof the consortium's been using Galactic 9 for illegal tech trials? Vea nodded. Biological weapon tests, cloaking frequency experiments, temporal phase distortion, most of it banned under the Vega Accords. And this is going to stop them? If we survive long enough to transmit it. Marcus folded his arms. So, standard heroic suicide odds? I calculate a 32% chance of success. He nodded. See, you keep getting more optimistic the longer we hang out. They began the upload, fingers flying over panels and glyphs. The cavern pulsed brighter with each passing second as the signal climbed toward the upper atmosphere. But somewhere behind them, a low tremor rolled through the stone. Vea turned. They've found us. Marcus sighed. Of course they have. Do you think we've earned a dramatic last stand yet? No, she said, pulling a small device from her belt. Because I have a teleshifter. You've had a teleshifter this whole time? It's not a luxury model. He looked at the half-melted duct-taped thing in her hand. It looks like someone built that with spite and recycled toaster parts. It's single-use, but it can send one of us out of here. Great. So you go. I'll stay. I've always wanted to haunt a cave. Vea stared at him. You're not a soldier. No, I'm a persistent nuisance with above-average luck. And you've got the data, the skills, and the brooding warrior aesthetic. You go. She hesitated. For a moment, her eyes betrayed something other than calculation, something like concern, or possibly heartburn. The data won't matter if the consortium destroys this site before the upload finishes. Then you'll have to stop them from the outside. And you'll stay here, with no weapons. I've got charm and a screwdriver. She didn't answer. The ground shook again, stronger this time. Cracks split the far wall. A sound like cracking knuckles echoed from the passage behind them. Vea looked down at the teleshifter, then at Marcus. You'll probably die. He gave her a crooked smile. Yeah, but heroically, maybe even sarcastically. She didn't argue. She pressed the device into his hand, initiated the sequence, then stepped back. You ever come back this way? Marcus said, voice lighter than his eyes. Bring snacks. Vea nodded once. Don't get killed. No promises. The shifter activated, surrounding her in a shimmer of light, and in a blink, she was gone. Marcus turned to the console and sighed. All right, Marcus, he muttered, flexing his fingers. Time to do something incredibly stupid. The mercenaries burst through the cracked wall, weapons raised, eyes scanning, and locking on him. He raised both hands. Hi, I'd like to talk to you about your car's extended warranty. They didn't laugh. But they didn't shoot immediately either. That was enough. He dove behind the terminal, yanking loose a bundle of exposed conduits and jamming his screwdriver into the core. The cavern surged with energy. The mercs fired. Plasma bolts tore through the air. One scorched his shoulder, another missed his leg by inches. He howled, both in pain and defiance, as the upload hit 90%. You're gonna have to do better than that, he yelled. I've had dental visits more traumatic than this. 95. The console started sparking. The screen flickered. Marcus slammed his hand onto the final sequence as one of the mercs closed in. Rifle raised. The upload hit 100%. Boom, Marcus whispered. Then everything went white. And when he opened his eyes, he was surrounded by clean light and antiseptic air. A ceiling of smooth alloy gleamed above him. He tried to sit up and groaned. Still alive, he croaked. That's weird. A figure moved into view. Blonde hair, long ears. A look of disapproval masked with a faint trace of relief. Vea? He squinted. I thought I told you to save the universe without me. You were unconscious and bleeding. That's just how I rest. She folded her arms. You passed out on top of the control core. Dramatically, I hope. Like a tired giraffe collapsing. He grinned, then winced. So, the data? Transmitted, public. The consortium is in retreat. Investigations are underway. You did it. We did it. Marcus looked around the medbay. This place got cable? Vea rolled her eyes. Rest. You'll need it. For what? She turned toward the door. We've been assigned a joint post. He blinked. Wait, together? You're surprisingly good at improvising and surviving. You're surprisingly bad at stabbing people you like. She paused at the door, looking back. You talk too much. He smiled. But admit it, you'd miss it. She didn't answer. But as she walked away, there was a smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. And for the first time, Marcus wasn't running or hiding or faking his way through. He was exactly where he was meant to be.